So the model of this paper is called message passing, and this paper was published on CDPR in 2017. And this paper is from the physics group. So my presentation is divided into 4 parts. So first, let's begin with the introduction part. So given two pictures, given two images, the first one and the second one, we can see if we extract the objects from these two pictures, we can see the first image has two objects, man and horse, and the second one also has the man and horse. And both of these two objects the man is standing on the left hand side and the horse is standing on the right hand side. So we can see the objects, the locations of these two objects are quite similar, man and horse. However, the relationship of these two objects are different. So we can see for the first one, the man is standing by the horse, but for the second one, the man is feeding the horse. So we would like to capture this kind of relationship so that we can answer some other questions like, what is this man doing? So this man is feeding the horse, but this man is standing by the horse. So our goal of this paper is to extract this kind of graph. So this is the man. We use the orange box to denote. So this is the man, and this is the horse. We use the green box to denote. So this is the horse. So what is this man doing? This man is feeding the horse. So we use this pink box to denote. So this man is feeding the horse. Of course, this man is also wearing the glasses. Man wearing glasses, and similarly, this man is holding bucket and horse is eating from bucket. So given this image, our goal of this paper is to generate this kind of graph, relationship graph. And the blue box here corresponds to the objects, and the pink box corresponds to the relationship of two objects. Then I turn to the model architecture part. So given an input image I, this is the input image I, we use this kind of existing model RPN to generate object proposals BI. So object proposals actually the objects of this image, meaning that the man, horse, bucket, glasses, these 4 objects are BI, object proposals. And this model is an existing model, meaning that the model proposed by this paper doesn't try to extract objects of this image, but rather this paper tries to construct the graph of this image. So this is the purpose of this paper. This is also the reason why this paper uses the existing model RPN to extract the objects. So after extracting the objects, then we have 2 goals. The first goal is to classify the objects, because here the orange box corresponds to the man and the green box corresponds to the horse. So how do we know this one is man and this one is horse? So this is the first goal, to classify objects. This is man, this is horse. And the second one is to classify the relationship of these 2 objects, meaning that so this man is holding this bucket. So we need to classify the word the predicate is feeding. Similarly, this man is wearing glasses. So we need to predict the relationship between man and glasses is wearing. So this is the second goal. And then our output of this model is this kind of graph. So this model can be divided into 4 parts. The first part, A, we first use RPN to extract object proposals BI, meaning that we can extract these blue boxes. And then we use this pre-trained network to learn representations. This pre-trained network is a kind of convolutional neural network. So because each proposal is a small part, rectangular part of this image, so we put each image, each object into a convolutional neural network and learn the representations. And then we have pink representation and blue representation. This corresponds to the object, this corresponds to the relationship. And then we use GRU to learn features. GRU is a unit of recurrent neural network. So we input this one into the GRU unit and output the representation of it. Similarly, for this one, we also input and output the representation. And the outputs of these 2 units are the representations output by this unit. And then we turn to the second part. Actually, the second part is called message pooling, meaning that, so suppose this is a graph we would like to output, and actually this part can be rearranged by this kind of bipartite graph. we can see so wearing glasses, feeding horse. So the left-hand side is the relationship and right-hand side is the objects. So all the links are between these two communities. No links within the same community. So we take feeding as an example. So man feeding horse. So man feeding horse. So there is a link from man to feeding and then from feeding to horse. Right. So it is impossible that there is a link between two objects, horse and bucket. It is impossible because there must be a relationship between these two objects. And then we can, after we get this kind of bipartite graph, so we can input this graph into this message pooling process. So what is message pooling? I take feeding as an example. If you want to learn the representation of feeding, then feeding must have two arrows, the input arrow and output arrow. So for the input arrow, man, output arrow, horse. So we would like to learn the representation of feeding. So how do we learn? Here, this is the input arrow, this is the output arrow, meaning that this is the representation of man, this is the representation of horse. And then this is the representation of feeding. And then we do some operation and obtain the ultimate representation of feeding. So what is this kind of operation? It's given by this formula form. So I use this one as an example to illustrate the computation process of it. So this blue corresponds to man, the representation of man. Here it is. It is computed by this GRU unit. And it is concatenated with the representation of the orange one, the feeding. And we multiply it by a weight matrix. So the result of this one should be a single real value, and then we use softmax function to transform it to a single real value between 0 and 1. And then we multiply this single real value by this representation. This representation is man. Similarly, we also have horse, right? So we concatenate the representation of horse with the representation of feeding, because our ultimate goal is to learn representation for feeding. And then similarly, this is the horse. And then we can get this representation. And we sum them up. And this is the output of this message pooling part, meaning that we use this way to learn the representation for feeding. And similarly, for each object, they also have two arrows, the input arrow and output arrow. For this one, feeding horse in front. So we can use the similar way to learn representation for each object. And this is what this message pooling does. So after that, we can see this is the GRU unit and message pooling. We repeat this process again. GRU unit and pooling, GRU unit pooling, again and again. And then ultimately we can obtain the representation for each object as well as the relationship. And we input them into softmax classifier to predict this is horse, this is man. And we also input them into another softmax classifier to predict this relationship is feeding, this relationship is eat from, and so on. And then we use cross-entropy loss function to update the parameters of the whole process and do convergence. So after convergence, we can do some experiments. The first experiment is self-comparison. So previously we used this kind of way to combine two representations, right? So for feeding, we use the representation of horse and man. Use this way to combine them, right? So one simple way is to take the simple sum of these two. Take the average of them, and the second pooling is to take the maximum value of them, and the third one is of course the method proposed by this paper, and we can see the final one is the best one. And then we turn to the quantitative results. So we also use the recall rate, and these three metrics are the same with Jinya's paper, and 26 is a baseline model, and these three are the different ways to do pooling, and we can see our ultimate model outperforms other baseline models. And this baseline model is actually weak. Remember, in this model we have the recurrent part, right? This kind of recurrent part. So the baseline paper doesn't consider the recurrent part. It only has this one, and then use the output of this one to classify objects directly. It doesn't have the recurrent part. So by comparing by comparing our model with the baseline model, we can see the recurrent part is very important. And then I turn to the qualitative results. So the second one is the ground truth, and the first row corresponds to the prediction of this model. We can see given the image, we can generate this kind of graph. Okay, that's all. So I turn to the review questions. The first question is, so for Jing Yao's paper, Jing Yao uses a bidirectional LSTM. So LSTM is a kind of recurrent neural network. However, recurrent neural network pays much attention to the last input and pays less attention to the first input. So my question is, does this model consider attention mechanism to differentiate the different importance of the different input? And the second one is that, so the experiment from Jing Yao's paper, so my model is a baseline model of Jing Yao's paper, and her paper uses the results from my paper directly. She doesn't conduct any experiment to validate the results. So my question is whether she uses the same experiment setup with my paper so that he can copy my result. And this is my second one. And the third one is, in Jing Yao's paper, there is a qualitative part in her experiment. So for this one, there is a table and with several cups on it, and there is also a birthday cake. However, this birthday cake is ignored by this graph. This graph doesn't have birthday cake. However, this graph recognizes that there is a table. However, how does this model achieve this kind of wrong output? Because the main thing, the important thing of this image is the birthday cake, but this model doesn't consider it.
Actually, table doesn't it?
But actually, box on table, cup on table, bowl on table, but no cake on table. This is table. So how does this model output this kind of wrong output?
Are you sure it's okay?
Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Okay. There's some time for questions.
Okay. Can you go back to the bipartite one? So how do you even know the direction? Like, how do you know which one's the source, which one is the target?
Good.
Horse feeding.
Man. I mean, I could put it that way, right? I mean, it's, but when I'm learning it, how do I even know which one should be?
I don't know. The author didn't explain it in the paper.
So basically, based on the graph we constructed by the backline.
Instead of predefined, right?
Yeah. Predefined.
Predefined object and predefined relationships.
Predefined objects and predefined
Relationship. The
relationships.
direction of the graph. They constructed by something on the backline.
So the source can be any source that is going to something else. So if we can start from man, then feeding, then horse, I guess.
So, but let's say I have a new image, right? How do I know which one I put as the source? How do I know which one is put as the target? So I get the image, I get all the objects, right? So then what do? I just do n squared and hope that something comes out.
Because you put on the body box to the edge detection and the low detection.
So then how do I know?
Oh, I realized in this part the direction is not very important because for we take feeding as an example, we would like to run the representation for feeding and use this one as example.
Okay.
Actually, feeding is the sum of these two, but it doesn't matter the direction. If the direction is man feeding horse, then we still have this kind of equation to learn representation.
But is the gray part the same?
With
The gray part, the projection part, is it the same?
So the horse feeding
oh, it's not the
relation.
same.
Could be another relation is fitted.
Fed by.
Fed by.
Fed by.
Fed by.
The author didn't explain it in the paper.
graph away.
Oh, okay. One minute. 这样子很快。
But then how does it deal with the non-directional relationships? Non-directional, so I don't know, maybe there is a tree next to the box. Or do I have to say it on the left or the right? So it's
for each one there are 3 arrows.
yeah.
If so, then we can. So for this relationship, it must has to do because 2 objects do the same relationship. For this one, it takes the sum, meaning that for each object, maybe this object is doing multiple things simultaneously. Then we take the sum of them.
Somehow the case has 2 people that handshake.
Then people,
Handshake.
men shaking.
Yeah.
Oh, kind of cool. So, but which means that actually there could be more than 2 going in and 1 coming out, right?
Yes.
Because you can have man feeding horse and woman feeding horse.
Yes.
Then we organize the graph into this kind of like the relation and to object. So they also offer the object to relation. So they just do this kind of thing.
This is the input.
It's about you change the input.
This one this graph is the same as this graph,
Yeah. So like you change this graph.
and this is the input of this pooling.
How about the begin with the object? So this is the begin with the relation. They also put that into the.
So equation 4 is to learn representation for the relationship, and equation 3 is to learn representation for object. So for each object, for each relationship, we have in arrow and out arrow, and for each object, we also have in arrow and out arrow.
I think we are out of time, so let's have Zhang to answer the questions. But before that, let's give one more.
Okay, first, does this model consider attention mechanism? Okay, so the motive network, they just use the bidirectional LSTM. So I think they don't use the attention mechanism. But I think like the why they use the LSTM is because they found the global context is important. So I think we can do some change based on the STM to involve the attention. I think that one may be helpful. But for now, I think they just to encode the global context inside. And
Isn't the larger the image, the more important it is?
the larger,
The larger the bounding box.
They
no,
resize, right? They resize the same values.
yeah.
But even what's the original one? I mean,
No,
like,
okay.
what's the question really? So the importance of different image parts, so it means of all the image regions, which one is important?
Yes.
So your question is why this one doesn't detect the cake, no? I think the box proposal are the output of existing algorithm.
Yeah.
So that is the error of the relation algorithm.
The attention mechanism should be better in the boxing part. So like before they give the boxing, they have the confidence like how important, how possible like this box contains some important object. So I think that part we should involve the attention mechanism.
But where is the box for the table?
Box.
Is there a box for the table?
Yeah, the pink one.
Almost the whole image.
No. The green one. Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, the second one, the comparison. I think the author repeat this. So this is the image of message passing, and this one. I think this one is the author repeat the model of the message passing, and they set up using the same setup and repeat the experiment and compare the results. So yeah, the result is still better. The voting model is still better than the message passing, because they do some different pre-processing. So in this experiment, they share the same one. So I think that's why it's comparable. And the last question is about the cake. And I think that one is because like the table, the cup, it's easy to learn. Like the cake, maybe in the data set, the cake is all different. Like maybe that's why they cannot detect the cake. So that's why they fail to predict the relationship between the cake and the table.
What does it say?
Oh. Yeah, happy birthday.
So how maybe it is possible that because the cup and the bowl often correlated with the table, so that's why it's recognized with the cup
Yes.
and the
No.
bowl.
The reason proposal are even they propose whatever is exactly.
But they can
Yeah, I think-
recognize this a cup and this is a bowl, right?
So that is the process, which is they recognize the variable of the cup and the table independently. They are related.
Yeah, I understand, but because it's the output of the previous the other two, right?
Yes.
That's why they can recognize the table. But let's say, but for the table, the cake in the middle of the image is not really familiar or not captures in the previous. Yeah, so that's why it cannot really recognize that it's a cake in middle of the photo, but they can capture this one. They have a cup and bowl on the table. So I'm trying to figure out why they can recognize the
So
table.
they don't have image of the
Yeah.
cake on the table.
Yes.
Why they cannot?
Yeah.
So one thing, so you just now talk about predicate ambiguity, right? So who actually lists the predicates? The people who write the ground truth, or is it there's a list?
They say people provide the ground truth.
So they can use any predicate they want.
What do you mean, any predicate?
The list of defined
Yeah.
predicates.
So would they? So that's defined. It's well defined.
By
Then-
the people labeling the
Yeah.
Then they should build same as predicates. So that means that if you are doing wearing and wears, then they
Yeah.
should be the same thing.
Yes.
So then you have better
Yeah.
results. You have more accurate results. Yeah.
I think the current model, they are almost actually still learn the bias of the data set. So like there are a lot of cups in the table. So we learn that from the data set, the data set we have. Then if we see like a cup in the picture, then it's pretty possible like there's a table. So that's from the global context. Even we don't know the image yet, so we can know, because they always comes with the table. So that's why they also say like the global context is also important. The motive, the repeated show structure in the image. So that helps to improve the results.
Okay. Thank you. Yes, thank